Hello everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this wonderful virtual campaign school that the Green Party is hosting. Honored to be here to be presenting on phone banking and text banking. Let me share my screen real quick. Share. All right, can everyone, if you can see this, please give me like a thumbs up if you guys can see my PowerPoint presentation. Can everyone see it? Perfect. All right, so brief introduction. My name is Kenneth Mejia. I live in Los Angeles, born and raised here. I ran for Congress 3 times, first starting at the age of 25, all the way up to 28. And we ran a pretty awesome campaign. We were grassroots volunteers. We had about 200 to 300, somewhere around like maybe 250 volunteers helping our campaign here locally in LA. And, we got close to 30% as a Green Party member running against a Democrat. And I think, I think that's the highest a Green has ever gotten against a Dem in the US Congress race. So we're proud about that, but we couldn't have done this without a lot of the help, from you, from the Green Party, from all our volunteers. And so, I'm here to talk about one of the areas that we did pretty well in, which was phone banking and text banking. And so I think for our campaign, we made about 40,000 calls, 50,000 calls around there. And then we sent out maybe 300,000 text messages. We sent out a lot of texting. So let's get started. So here are my takeaways. The takeaways here are that when you leave this training, you want to send clear instructions to your volunteers and teams. You want to create and know your voter groups, to who you're phone banking to or texting to. You want to cater your messaging to specific voter groups. And you also want to show what type of ways to phone bank or how to phone bank or text bank. And you also want to analyze, collect data from phone banking and text banking to help your campaign. And then at the end, you also want to follow up closer to when voting begins. So these are going to be the 6 points that I'm going to be talking about that I believe are key that sort of we did as a campaign that was very successful. So the first point was send clear instructions to volunteers/teams. So, you want to create like a summary email or a PDF, or a Word doc to your team. And you want to give this out to your team or your volunteers so that they could easily, once someone signs up to volunteer on your website, you could easily send them these instructions with the quickness, right? In your instructions, you want to make sure you give as much detail as possible as if you weren't there. So you want to have everything covered in that PDF document. Maybe it's a page, maybe it's 2 pages, or it's in your email so that they know how to set up the phone bank, how to text bank, and whatnot. And if you can, provide screenshots. That's something that we like to do. We like to provide screenshots on how to set up their account if, we were using an app or if they just needed to know how to do it. Also as well, in your instructions, please provide, a summary about your candidate as well too. Sometimes I'll just get a script from a campaign and I don't really know about the campaign or the candidate at all. So if you can list out some platform points and maybe some accomplishments too, what they've done locally or whatnot. And also have a script for voicemails if they don't answer. I've seen that too, where people phone bank and they only have a script for phone banking, but they don't have anything for voicemails. So this is gonna be important too. Please get this ready when you start setting up your campaign and send out these easy, clear instructions. The next point I want to talk about here is create/know your voter groups. So this could actually tie into the overall campaign in general. When you do your voter data analysis, this ties in into your outreach, whether it's canvassing, knocking on doors, whether it's phone banking or text banking. You want to sort of be efficient and strategic about your phone banking and your text banking, especially who you're doing it to. So, for our campaign, what we did really well was we were able to get the voter file, and we categorized voters in specific groups or categories based on what was available. So on some voter files, we had information like the political party. We had information about, when they registered to vote, which is good. We had information on, the location, their zip code, because if you're running for a big district, or, let's even say a local, there might be a ton of different cities, and, you might need to break it out, different messaging to each specific geographic location. You could also break it out by age. Some voter files have birthplace, where they were born, whether it's like a state, if they're born in California, or if they're born in like, a different country. And then also some voter files also have ethnicity too. So, this is huge, for what we did in our race. We sent out different messaging to Green Party members in our district. For registration date, if people registered, let's say, when Bernie Sanders was running, let's say in 2016, when we saw an influx of registrations happen in March 2016 in California, we knew like, all right, these people who registered at this time are likely burners, and so we're going to get their vote because they're progressive. Location in LA, there are some areas that were more affluent than others. There are areas that were more low income. There are a lot of cultural differences. So our messaging to each group was different, right? Because you want to cater sort of your messaging to, that group, and, age as well. What we were sending out to 18-year-olds in our phone banks and texting were different than what we would send out to people who were, much older. And, birthplace too, if you could relate. For me, I'm Filipino, so I had a specific messaging for Filipinos as well. So that was something that I did. So, once you create and know your voter groups, what you then want to do is you want to cater your messaging to those voter groups, when you do your phone banking and when you do your text banking. So when it comes to phone banking or text banking, you want to come up with a script. And some examples are, like I mentioned, younger voters versus older voters, parts of the city versus other parts of the city, especially if there are areas that are more liberal or conservative than other parts. And, voters who registered recently versus voters who registered a long time ago. And by the way, I'm going to show you some examples at the end of all this stuff that we did in our campaign. So you all have some more context on what this actually translates to. Let me see. So the next point is keep your script concise and to the point, but also engaging with voters. So, when you phone bank, and you want to make, as I said, you want to make your scripts for specific voter groups if you can. For us, we had a large team. We had people creating specific scripts and messaging to different voter groups. But if you're running low on volunteers, you don't have a lot of people to help you, do the data analysis. If you just need to go out there and then make sort of like a general phone bank script. But for us, we had a lot of different types of scripts because we had the capacity. And when you make your script, especially for phone banking, you want to make it sound like a real conversation. You don't want to sound like a robot. That's one thing that we tell people. Put that in your instructions too. You don't want to sound like you're just reading off a script. Like, hi, my name is Kenneth. I'm a volunteer for Kenneth. Well, you want to sort of sound like you're actually talking to them in real life. And so what I tell people is smile when you talk. It actually helps. And also an important point too about your script too is people forget to ask if they support the candidate or their campaign. This is actually a lot of mistakes that campaigns do. They don't ask or track progress, and asking that question at the end is, will you support our campaign? Will you support Kenneth? That will let you know if you got that person's vote, because you always want to take results back, whether you're canvassing or phone banking or text banking, and then add them to your track count list. Because for us, we had a magic number, and I think many big campaigns have that magic number that they need to get to in order to win. So make sure you ask them at the end, will you support our campaign? When it comes to text banking, make sure you make your text to the point. You don't have to make it not too long. What else today? Not too long. If you can make it 160 characters or less if possible. You know, that's what we did. If you have to, you can do it out in 2 texts, which is 320 characters. So, you know, and then if they reply back, engage in conversation if you can. I think a lot of people who get text, mass text, they think that they think that they're getting like a robot texting them. So if you have the capacity to reply back, you know, some text apps you could reply back, or say if you don't have the money for a text app and you're actually doing it from your phone, then reply back, you know, because I think it's a great way to, you know, get that voter to cross over to your side. So after you cater your messaging, you come up with your script. You know, here are some types of ways to phone bank. You know, if you have money, you know, use a phone banking software. So for us here in California, we have this voter data interface called PDI, and so, you know, there you were able to make calls from. They had a script already, had a voicemail, and it was all already in this app. You know, another example of phone banking softwares are Call Hub. So, you know, if you can check out both. You know, for PDI, it was pretty expensive because it was all-inclusive campaigning. So it was the voter file, it was phone banking, it was mass emails, it was literally everything. And I think we paid for PDI around, like, I think we paid $8,000, so, or 10,000. So, you know, luckily for us, we were able to raise a lot of money as a insurgent campaign, but I think Call Hub might be cheaper. If you're running low on money, what you could do is you could cut voter files and then turn them into Excels or Google Sheet files to send to voters. Or what we did at a time when we first started is we had Google Sheets, and then we created tabs at the bottom with different voter groups on who they were reaching out to, you know. And you know, if you can, you would just have you or your volunteers personally call them from their phone. I think some phone bank softwares let you call them through their app, which matches the voter's area code. So, you know, it might be tougher too if you're doing it from your phone and you say you're having someone from Vermont call someone from LA, right? You know, they're not used to that area code. So, you know, when it comes to text banking, if you do have money, there are a lot of mass texting apps. You know, Call Hub has it, Handstack has it, and they're actually fairly cheap. You know, you could also use, I think Jay said Google Voice if you can. And yeah, some of these are like 2 cents a text or 1 penny a text, or, you know, you get a lot of people for $20 or $100. And if you're running low on money, like I said, for the phone bank, do the same thing. Cut up your voter sheets into Excels or Google Sheets tabs and have people text them personally from their phone. At least for this one, if you text people and you're from out of state to, like, let's say my campaign in LA, at least they'll know that you're not someone random, right? They'll think, oh, he's just a volunteer calling from another area. So these are some ways to phone bank and text if you can. So I think the most important thing too is you want to analyze and collect data from phone banking and text banking. There is a lot of analysis that comes with it, you know, that you want to take down in order to measure your progress as a campaign. You know, after every conversation, if you can, jot down important information. You know, based on your script, what did you want to get out of the call? You know, was there a goal that you want to get out of the call? Were there any important issues to them that you should write down, you know, that your volunteers should write down, so that you could, you know, talk to that voter again? You know, did you ask them to support your campaign at the end of the call so that you could measure your progress? You know, and if they do support your campaign, are they neutral? Do they support your campaign? Do they oppose it? I know for us, for PDI, for our software, it lets you rank your voter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 being that they strongly support, 2 is just support, 3 is neutral, 4 is oppose, and 5 is strongly opposed. So you want to take that data and sort of put it in your analysis so you can see if you're getting closer and closer to that magic number to win. You know, and also as well, are you having any luck with your voter group? You know, do you need to focus your volunteer efforts on another group because these voters keep hanging up on you, or they don't care? You know, do you need to adjust your messaging and script? So this is something that your volunteers and you should always constantly analyze as well, because you don't want to just keep calling the same voter group and your volunteers will get frustrated and you'll get frustrated and whatnot. You know, if you're low on volunteers, call the voter groups that you think that will vote most likely for you. You know, if you're a green, don't try to call the like a super conservative voter group, you know, or like a super liberal democratic, you know, age group, because you know they won't vote for you. You know, focus on what you can with the resources you have. You know, and last but not least, you know, do you need to follow up with any voters too? So, you know, this is all important information when you do your phone banking and text banking. You know, collect data. I think data analysis is very important. Don't just call people and text people without writing down your results. So it's nice. And when voting begins, you know, you want to follow up. And phone banking and text banking are actually great ways to reach out to your supporters you've gained along the trail. You know, if you can call your supporters. You know, it's more personal. Leave a voicemail. You know, if the candidate can do it, sure, go ahead. I know for me, like I set aside 30 minutes or an hour every night as it got closer to election day to start calling them. You know, and then let's say if you're running low on volunteers, or if you don't have a lot of people helping you, and you have a lot of supporters that you track down during your campaign trail, send them a mass text instead. You know, if you sent invested $50 in a mass text app, you could probably send it to 5,000 supporters of yours. You know, and just send a mass text and reminding them to vote. And if you do have time, if you do have lots of volunteers, call or text voters information about how to vote, you know, when they would receive their mail-in ballot, if they do vote by mail, and where their polling location is. I think one thing that we got a lot of voters, especially at the end, was that we said, we reached out to the voters and we asked them if they needed to know their polling location. You know, we had a lot of volunteers, so we actually had enough people to do research of people's voting location, you know, the specific venue where they had to go, and they like that. You know, I remember seeing on Twitter someone say, you know, I never heard of Kenneth Mejia, but his campaign just texted me or called me and let me know my polling location was this. And then, you know, I'm going to vote for this guy. So, you know, just, you know, nice gestures like that could really go a long way. And you have to remember too, especially if you run in a campaign against these big establishment people, they're probably gonna run on name recognition alone. They're probably not even going to try to phone bank or text people. So, you know, even if you call them or leave a voicemail, I think they'll consider that more than, you know, the incumbent not doing anything. Because when you're a green and you run against, you know, these candidates, they don't really want to put attention on you. So, you know, do your best that you can to reach out to the voters, and some of them will actually appreciate that you reached out to them. So, you know, as I said, the takeaways that, you know, you should get from this presentation are, you know, send clear instructions to your volunteer team, create and know your voter groups, tailor your messaging to each voter group. You know, I talked about ways to phone bank and text bank, whether it's using an app or using your phone, or, you know, it's free. I talked about analyzing and collecting data from phone banking, text banking, and follow up closer to when voting begins. So what I could do now is, Hillary, if you could privately message me how much time I have left here, so I could see if because I want to do a Q&A and then also show you guys some examples. So let me see if I can show you some examples. So, all right. So let me see if I can share this. Can you guys see this, my Word document? Or is it, if you can see my Word document, can you give me some thumbs up or something? Or no, is it still the PowerPoint? I can't tell you. It's still the PowerPoint? All right, let me see if I can switch. Do new share. So, all right. So these are some instructions. So can you all see my instructions now? Can you see it? Give me a thumbs up. So this is an example of the instructions that I sent to volunteers and voters. So this was actually before we used and had money to do a phone banking app. So this is actually us. We used Google Sheets, which is free. So these instructions here are instructions that I sent to people where our campaign didn't have to pay for anything. So, it lists out instructions below. So you have a smooth phone banking session. It tells you the best times to call for your volunteer, like Monday through Friday between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., Pacific, because we wanted to call people after work. And then we list out on weekends, you can call from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. We list out the instructions on what you need. A Google email account, you'll need a laptop, the phone bank script. I sent that separately, a voicemail script, a text script. That was also something we did too. If we called a cell phone and they didn't answer, we also sent them a text too. And have a great smile and attitude. So yeah, so I basically list out everything in steps. As you can see here, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but I give screenshots as well on notes here. So if you look at this screenshot here, it shows which volunteer called. So it says KM called on February 28th. So you could also list this out too on if you guys are having multiple volunteers share one voter group. Make sure you list out who's in charge of what. So here it says Kim was in charge of these specific voters. Like I said, if you look at step 4, use the phone bank script as a guide. You don't have to read the phone bank script word for word. So that's something I want to tell you too. Don't make the mistake in trying to be verbatim on your script. Have them read it and then have them change it up. If you look at step 5, I list here, can we count your support? That's what I was telling you all about. Make sure to ask if they'll vote for you or not. If they say, I don't know, then they're neutral. If they say no, then put they oppose you. If they say yeah, then put, they support you, so you can add it to your magic number. So you see here on step 6, I have a voicemail and I list out a voicemail message here. This is much longer than the actual phone bank script because I'm actually, I have the opportunity to leave a voicemail. Usually this is 1 minute long or whatnot. I list out, who I am in my voicemail, some issues that I'm fighting for, like single payer. I also, let me see here, mention about, having new blood in office. I list my website out to make sure they can visit me. And then I also spell out my name, Mejia, because a lot of people don't know how to spell Mejia. So if you can, make sure you list that out too. And then I also put my personal email here so they could email me if they wanted to reach out. So this is like pretty much the instruction sheet that I sent them. It's 2 pages long and it gets the job done. Let me see what else I can show you guys. So here is an example of, I think I have to do a new share. So here is an example of the actual phone bank script that we used. In ours, in bold, it tells you the voter name. It tells you the notes that you have to do that are addressed to the volunteer who's making the phone call. So, my phone bank script is very general. It says, hi, my name is Robert, and I'm a volunteer for Kenneth Mejia, who's running in the June 5th election to represent you in Congress. And I say, I'm calling to hopefully earn your vote by letting you know what Kenneth and our campaign is fighting for. And they say, it will only take less than a minute or so. And then I ask, is that okay? Then usually like, yeah, less than a minute, fine. So I usually say, I created this script as if I was talking to them because I know people don't want to be on the phone for more than 30 seconds or a minute. So I give them that, I let them know, hey, this is going to be a minute or less. So they're like, all right, fine. I'll hang on and listen. So, I say Kenneth is a young progressive candidate. He's fighting to ensure healthcare, housing, and education and human rights, by pushing for things like single-payer healthcare, tuition free public college, cancellation of student debt, and universal rent control, etc. Then I also ask them too, because I want to interact with them. I say, hey, is there one big issue that concerns you, or have we addressed it? And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, you actually addressed it. Single payer is a big issue for me. So then I'm like, all right. And sometimes they'll say like, well, my big issue is the LAPD, them brutalizing Black and brown youth, blah, 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 then you would write that down and be like, and if you actually know about our campaign, you could actually converse with that voter. Like, yeah, actually Kenneth is for, cutting the LAPD budget, is against the surveillance program that they're having, spying on our youth, then the voter be like, oh, that's pretty awesome. So, write down your notes on what the voter says if needed. It says here, if there's another issue, let the voter know. We will let Kenneth know to address it. So yeah, if there is an issue they talk about and you have no idea what Kenneth's position is or your candidate's position is, say, we'll look into it, And then after you talk about that, you want to say, I really appreciate you for listening. And then I also ask this question too. I also ask, has any other campaign taken the time to talk to you, face to face or on the phone or whatever? And then asking that question sort of plants this seed in their head, like, actually, no one has ever reached out to me. So that's something that we like to throw in there too. And then they'll be like, if they say no, then I say, well, we are a grassroots campaign and we don't have any money. So talking to people face to face or on the phone is our only option. And it's the only way we hope on winning. And I say, before we leave, can we count on your support and vote on June 5th? This is the magic question right here, that you got to ask this. If no, then, or they're not sure, you mention something like, well, I hope you consider voting for him. And if, feel free to reach out to his email or, on the flyer, or check out his website at mejiaforcongress.com. If yes, you say, thank you so much. And, don't just say like, thank you for voting for Kenneth. Also tell them to let their family and friends know as well. And then ask them this question too. Would you like to be part of our team and help us talk to voters as well? It's only 2 to 4 hours a week. So, I'm letting them know like most volunteers only volunteer for 2 hours out of 7 days. And actually many of our volunteers, out of the 250 volunteers that we had, I would say like 60 or 70 from them came from canvassing and phone banking or texting, because they really wanted to get involved and they didn't know how. So it's always good to ask. So yeah, this is an example of our script. We also have a large Spanish-speaking population, so we have a Spanish script as well. So, make sure you, as I was saying, cater your messaging to your voter groups, literally. If you have to speak another language, then you have to do that too. What else? Other examples I could show you. I could just show you this. So this is an example of, I'll show you one more example of voter instructions we sent out for an actual software that we were using. So yeah, I mean, if you do have the money, I totally recommend you guys invest in like a phone bank or text bank app if you can. So, once we were able to raise money, we moved away from Google Sheets. So we actually had, we used PDI, and PDI is like one of the best of the best voter databases. And so, I list out the phone bank instructions. I have screenshots. It tells you exactly what to do. First name, last name, enter your email. So yeah, so this just gives you more example. And as you can see in my phone banking software app, it actually lists, the voicemail script on top, and it actually lists the actual call script on the bottom. So, and if you look at this phone banking software, it also lists out too, Cindy Perez, she's female, she's 27, she's a Democrat. And also if you look on the right, it says, will you support Kenneth Mejia for Congress, strong support, lean support. So yeah, so this is pretty much what I would send instructions for people if we did have an app. So let me go. And then I could also show you guys one more example of something we use. Let me see here. I'll show you one more set of instructions that we sent. And this was for texting as well. So I'll show you my instructions that I had for texting. So yeah, so for texting, we used all different kinds of software. So I listed out the instructions here, the username, password, the website that they had to go to. Um, you know, I listed out how to create CSV files, on how to create voter databases. So, this would actually tell volunteers or team members how to format, how to load these voters into our texting app. Yeah, so these list out, screenshots of exactly what to do. Um, you know, I wanted to share this too because you can also see the different types of voter groups that I created. So as you can see here in my screenshot, although this is telling me how to text people, you can see behind the screens that I had different groups I was texting to or phone banking. So, one thing that's good about these mass text apps too is that you could use your mass text apps to volunteers. So at the start of our campaign, if you look at the volunteer test, we had 941 people signed up to volunteer. So we sent out 941 text messages, so you don't also use your text banking and your phone banking apps to reach out to your volunteers who signed up. It doesn't just have to be the voters. But if you look down though, you can see that I texted a voter group called the Greens that were registered as of 3/5/2018. You could see that I texted a voter group that was age 23 to 25 that were in the Democratic Party, that were no party preference, that were peace and freedom. You can also see I had another voter group down here for Filipinos that were born in the Philippines. And then I also here, I was saying that, follow up with supporters and undecided voters. I sent out a mass text to them too as well, closer to the campaign. And so, you could sort of see the type of voter groups that I created to cater my messaging to. And I think, this is going to be really key when you create your phone banking or your text banking. Here's an example of a text I sent to volunteers. I would say, hi, this is Kenneth Mejia, running for Congress. Thank you for your past support. I'm texting you to see if you would like to volunteer for Kenneth today or something like that. So yeah, so these are these are the instructions that I sent out to people who were texting on our behalf. So, but yeah, those are some examples that I showed. And so I'll look here and I'll answer some questions. So what I'm going to do is if you have questions, feel free to ask it in the chat. I'm going to scroll back up to the beginning of this so I could answer some questions. So let me go back to here. So while I talk, I'll leave it on. I'll leave it right here. So yeah, I'll answer some questions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. So I'm gonna just scroll back up to the top to see if anyone has any questions. So, all right, let me see. To address Travis's unrelated message, yeah, that was a sarcastic troll tweet. Let me see here. Jaime asked, do you do bilingual texts? Yeah, if you can, do bilingual texts. We were sending out texts to people who spoke Spanish, to people who spoke Korean, to people who spoke Tagalog, which is Filipino. And that's because we had a large volunteer base. So, if possible, if you don't have that many volunteers or speak that many languages, do your best as you can. If it's only 1 or 2 languages, do it. Let me see here. Darlene asks, Kenneth, which one do you think is more popular with long people? Darlene, can you clarify what long people means? I don't know what long people means, but maybe you might have meant young people. But if that's the question, what's popular with young
Hi, Kenny.
People? Hey, Darlene.
How you doing? Yes, that was a typo. Not long people, but young people.
Okay, I was like, long people.
Young people.
We're gonna make long pants a human right. But anyways, but popular messaging for young voters is, keep your keep your script and your text, if you talk to young voters, keep it, you know, short and concise. You know, if you can, be empathetic. You know, a lot of them have a very short attention span. You know, I'll get 18-year-olds who'll hang up in like 2 seconds or 3 seconds. So, you know, if I hear them pick up the phone and they'd be like, yo, 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 what up? You know, then I'll go off script and I'll be like, hey, what's up, Danny? How you doing? You know, like I'll match their energy. You know, and I'll talk about issues that are popular with the young voter. Let's say like, you know, free college or canceling student debt. You know, in LA, a lot of people are renters. So I'm like, you know, struggling families who need to pay rent. So we're talking about passing rent control or more quality public housing, and they'll be like, oh, that's pretty cool. So, you know, read your audience well. You know, I say after you do your first 10 phone banks to a specific voter group, adjust if you need to. That's usually how fast and, you know, it takes to adjust your messaging right away, is if someone picks up, and know that when you phone bank, I'd say 1 out of every 10 people or 1 out of every 6 people pick up the phone. So, you know, when you actually talk to 10 actual voters, adjust your messaging. Billy asked, how do you deal with trolls in terms of reply? You know, I get a lot of trolls that do text back. You know, a lot of people will curse you and say F off, or they're like, I'm gonna sue you, or they'll be like, how did you get my phone number? You know, especially when it comes to text. So, you know, if they're trolling, I ignore it right away. You know, if they ask a legit question in the text reply back, you know, because I'm assuming most trolls, they won't troll you on the phone because they don't do that. They'll troll you if you don't see their face. So they'll troll you on the text messaging. So, you know, actually, I listed out some. Let me see if I have it. I actually list out some common replies that I had. Let me see if I can share it with you all. So when I sent out instructions to our team or our volunteers, these were some of the common responses that we got. So let me share this. Can you all see that my Word doc or the responses? Yeah. So yeah. So you know, some common responses, if we asked them if we could help, if they would like to help our campaign, because a lot of people would text back and say, how can I help? Or, you know, I want to help your campaign. So we sent out these different types of common replies that we sent to them. Some common responses were after say that they're interested, you know, if they do want to volunteer, I would say, hey, when's the next time you're available for an hour or two? You'll get a lot of this one. This is the big one that I get a lot. How did you get my number? How do you know my name? You know, especially when you're mass texting people, this is a big one. They'll get really upset, like, you know. So I say, I explain to them nicely, and they sometimes when you reply back, they're like, oh wow, you actually replied back. I didn't know that. I thought you were a robot, and they'll actually apologize too. So, you know, sometimes for trolls who say like F you, like leave me alone, sometimes I'll apologize, like, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to bother you, and then they'll reply back, oh my goodness, I didn't know that you were actual real human being. And then they'd be like, you know what, I'll check out your website. So, you know, here's some other common responses. I like to help, but I'm very busy. I go to school, I have a job. And I just tell them, you know, what they could do. They could spread the word to your friends and whatnot. What else is there? You know, some common response that I get is they'll send an emoji. so my response will be, hey, thanks for the emoji, if you would like to get involved in the political process. So sometimes I'll go along with the trolls as well. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just all depends. Beverly says, I'm not a fan of robocalling. Yeah, I mean, we never robocalled for our campaign. We actually did actual calling and actual texting. What else is there? Let me see any other.
So, Kenneth, I hate to cut you off, but we're a little over time. This has been super helpful and amazing. Can people reach out to you personally on your email and ask more questions?
Yeah, feel free to email me if you want my scripts, if you want my instructions, whatever, I'll send it to you. I also have my whole platform. If you want my whole platform that we have, it's not up on my website anymore because we don't have it. But feel free to email me. I can send you everything.
We actually have, and it's not well publicized because it's not very robust, but we do have what we call at the CCC a campaign in a box. And it's basically a Google Drive with different, folders for different parts of campaigns, and putting your scripts in that Google Drive would be great because it's essentially like, here's random stuff from other people's campaigns, adapt away, whether it's flyers or budgets, or in your case, call scripts. So if you can share that with me and give us permission to share it more broadly, that would be phenomenal. So yes, that was a really great presentation. I certainly learned a lot. And it's amazing, what technology can do, and, how you can get volunteers involved in so many different aspects of your campaign.